All right, YouTube, we're back, and we are going to be doing the lift kit today. We just pulled the Jeep in the garage, and the weather's finally nicer, so I can leave the doors open and enjoy myself while I do this. So, Jordy and I are very ready for this. Are you ready to get dirty? You're already a little bit dirty. You got some stuff on your face.
No.
It's okay. All right, well, we're gonna get dirty. We're gonna get the Jeep on the lift now, so let's go. Push this one. Push it in there. All right. Time to help out. Okay, gotta get it all the way in there. Okay, good job. Now, the Jeep has 50-50 weight distribution, so the back tire and the front tire I think should be a little more this way. So I'm going to turn the camera off and move it forward now. All right, where I like to put the lift points are right under here. This is right where I put it. I'll put that one there. And I'll do this one over here. This one I like to put right under here. Okay. Now I'm gonna lift it up so we can get closer to where we're trying to get to here. Okay, now let's get this one centered where it needs to go. Oh, the lock is kicked in. Here, right here. Right about there, it's perfect. Okay, that's good for there.
No, lift it up.
Not yet, almost. Oh, and the lock kicks in. Okay, that's this side. Let's go to the other side. All right, we're gonna loosen the wheels up before we lift it off the ground. It's always easier to torque on those lug nuts when the tires are not moving and spinning with it, so let's do that. Okay, now before we put the Jeep up in the air, we're gonna measure the distance between the tire and the fender. And right now, the driver's side rear tire and fender have a separation of about 4 3/8 inches. That's what it looks like to me. The passenger rear looks to be about 4 1/4 inches. Remember, this is now with the 1-inch spacers in the back as part of the TerraFlex leveling kit that I am removing. The passenger side front has a distance of about exactly 5 inches in the front between the fender and the tire. And this is with a 2-inch spacer from the TerraFlex leveling kit. 5 inches front passenger. Front driver's side after the TerraFlex leveling kit, 2 inches in the front.
I think it's that one.
No, it's not. It's about 5 1/8 inches. 5 1/8 for the front driver's side space between the tire and the fender. All right, now we're gonna put the 2.5 inch lift kit on, and we'll take a measurement when we're done with that one. Haley,
Mommy.
can you say Jeep?
Mommy.
So we're gonna put the jack under the differential as to support it while I unbolt all the suspension. All right, now that I got the wheels and tires off, the first thing we're gonna do is get these shocks off here. They're the thing that holds everything up. So let's get those off there. I got an 18mm socket with a impact gun. So here we go. I'll do the same on the other side. I also use PB Blaster because, as you can see, there's quite a bit of rust here. Now, I unbolted the shock back here, but I did realize that we should probably loosen up this this brake line bracket. I'm gonna take it off. It's gonna take a 13mm, not a 3/8. Oh, I'm sorry. What am I talking about here? This is a 10mm right here. 10mm is gonna get that off there, and then we can loosen up the line. When you lower the axle down to do all this work, you do not want to be tearing at this thing, so give it a little slack and remove that. I think they should have told me that first before they told me to remove the shock. I was thinking that was the case, but I went by the instructions anyway, and I realized it was way too tight. So sure enough, it was the next step to take this off of here. So that's what I'm going to do now. If yours is anything like mine, this bolt is very, very rusted on there. I was actually worried I was going to break it as I was pulling it out, but that's what it looks like for me. That's the clip that it's screwing into. So anyway, that's going to give us some more slack so that we don't tear the brake line as we drop the axle. Another thing you're going to want to do is take this e-brake cable out, and I did that with these channel locks. I basically, it routes up in here. This part goes in this hanger, and then this spring-loaded part here, this black plastic clip, is in this hanger, and then the end of the cable right here goes through this hole here. And I grabbed it with channel locks and kind of torqued it and pulled it at the same time. I pulled this plastic piece here to get it out of the next hanger. This one was a little more challenging, but you just kind of got to bend these tabs in and just slide it out. I know there's a hole at the bottom here. It looks like you can pull it out, but you can see the diameter of this and the distance in here, that does not fit. So you have to compress these and slide it through this way. That way you can get some more infinite slack. It's not connected anymore. So your brake lines are loose and the e-brake is loose. And I gotta look into this. What is this? ABS sensor maybe? Yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna probably have to remove something there for more slack, or maybe not. And then I can drop the axle and get the springs out. Also, the shock, I still need to get up there and get that out of there. That's next. When removing the rear shocks, the upper mount bolts, you do not have to spin them completely off. There's a tab on the top of the shock that lets it slide out. So you need to take the two bolts and loosen them slightly, and you do that with a 16mm socket. So I'm going to take care of that right now. Okay, I take that back. You have to take out one of these bolts, and then you can slide it over. Here's the here's what the tabs look like. All right, now I'm going to take off the sway bar end links down there. And that should allow me to drop the axle. So let's get that done. All right, the sway bar end links came out with an 18mm socket and a crescent wrench on the back side. So those are done. Now the coil springs can come out, but I have to lower the axle. Here we go. All right, the springs are out, and now it's time to take off the rear track bar at the axle. So I'm going to be using, what size is this? 21mm. Goes right on there. You don't need something on the back because it's got a tab here. It's gonna hold it. As I unscrew it, it's gonna lock here and allow me to unscrew it. So that's that. I just put the track bar relocation bracket on, and the instructions tell you to use the factory bolt, which is right here, going through there. They want you to use that down here. And I learned pretty quickly that that is not going to work because it's not long enough. The pictures show it being down here and using this newer bolt up here. But that is not the case. It is not long enough to go down there because it comes out. So you put the crush sleeve in there, and then you put the new bolt washer, nut down there, and then you put the old bolt, the old nut with this tab here through the track bar. I have yet to put the U-bolt through there, but we're going to do that next, and I'm going to torque it all down, and we're going to move on to the next step. One thing I want to mention is I did get this on here, and it took 19mm socket. That's what it took, 19mm socket. And now it's time to torque down these two nuts and these two bolts. And then I am past the relocation bracket part of this install. All right, so now it's time to put on the new rear springs. This is the new spring from Rock Krawler, triple rate spring, and this is the stock spring for the Jeep. Now, I didn't have it stock. I had the 1-inch Terraflex spacer. This is the stock cushion, I guess you could call it, for the spring perch. And it's actually like this. It goes on there, it pops on, and I couldn't get it off. I used pry bars and everything. Finally, I realized how I got it on there 5 years ago. Grease. So I put some grease on there and used my pry bars over there. and I popped them off. So these are the stock factory purchase. I'm going to reuse those. These are probably going to go to my brother for his Jeep JL Rubicon. Just give it a little 1-inch bump on the back, and I'll do the same for the front, the 2-inch. So anyway, all right, here goes nothing. I'm going to put these new springs in. All right, so I got the coil springs in here. They're very tall compared to the springs I had in there, so I had to lower the axle and it wouldn't lower much more. So I ended up figuring out that the lift was hung up on the control arm on the other side. So I lowered the Jeep onto some jack stands and then repositioned this arm on the other side so it wouldn't interfere with the control arm. And checked it up again. Now the axle went down enough. I also had to loosen up the ABS lines. And yeah, that's about it. Loosen up the ABS lines. Popped out these. I hate the way these look after you do that, by the way. I popped those out. So anyway, I got it in there, and I had to undo this bolt and take this out to make that happen. So I guess I jumped out of order. My mistake. So anyway, it was a pain in the ass putting that back in. I had to get the axle to the correct level to do that, so I did that, and now the springs are in on both sides, and now I can start putting everything back together. Next is going to be the bump stop extensions for the rear here, so let's put those in. By the way, the sun is going down, so I'm going to be going on fluorescent lights now. Alright, here we go. Alright, so I installed the bump stop extension here. Took a 15mm socket wrench and a box wrench holding the nut on the back, and that went on very fast. Time to go do the other side. Alright, so I'm putting this back together and I'm realizing that I'm probably going to need some rear brake line relocation brackets. This is way too tight. So I'm going to have to get them moved down to about here. I'm going to have to order some brackets. From what I've read, it sounds like I can drive around like this for a while and it's not going to wreck anything. It's mounted right here, so I think it'll be alright temporarily while the new ones are on their way. So, okay. One thing they say you want to do with the Rancho RS 9000 XL shocks is that you want to put something in here, like grease, to prevent this thing from, I guess, locking up over time. Stop spinning, corrosion. God knows what happens in there. It's plastic. As you can see right there, as you spin it, this thing comes in and out. You can set them 1 through 9. Not sure which direction is which right now. I haven't really gone into the instructions on those, but I'm sure I'll figure it out. I'm going to put some grease in here, and hopefully that will prevent that from having an issue in the future. So we'll just fill this thing up with grease, and we'll put it back together. I'm going to do that for all 4 shocks. And I'm learning this from someone else on YouTube. They did this. Probably gonna need a lot more than that. So I'm gonna turn the camera off and I'm gonna do it with 2 hands. And as soon as I get this done, we're gonna put it up there and I'll let you know how it goes. We're gonna put 1 bolt through here. Again, 2 bolts, 1 there, 1 there. For the back, and then I think that should wrap up the rear of the Jeep. So let's get that done. Alright, so I got these Rancho shocks installed, and I noticed a problem up here. The red plastic boot is rubbing on my exhaust. So, I'm going to put this whole thing back together now. I think all I have left to do is basically put the tires back on. And tomorrow morning, it's getting late tonight, so tomorrow morning I'll probably wrap that exhaust system. You know what, I'm going to finish the front of the lift, and then I'll wrap something around the exhaust right there to help protect from melting the red boot. So, other than that, I have them adjusted at 1 out of 9. So I think this is the floating setting. This is the setting that's super comfortable and soft. So, anyway, I gotta hook up the what is that? The e-brake over here. I gotta hook that up. So I'm gonna hook up the e-brake, put the tires back on, and get the Jeep lowered for the night. But I would say that today was a success, and this went better than planned, and I'm very happy with it. So I guess we're gonna put it back together, and we'll see you tomorrow.